Sekeres and Price for Tuesday, July 14th, 2026. We're a presentation of Bet365. At Bet365, boring games, a thing of the past. Now, there's always a reason to tune in, even if the score isn't one of them. Download the app today. Must be 19 plus. Please play responsibly. Matt Sekeres alongside Blake Price, Mike Rogerson hitting switches and conducting things. We invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're watching on YouTube right now, and to subscribe to our podcast, whatever platform you may use, and leave a like while you are there. Now, a little bit of business to clean up from yesterday, and thank you for your patience. As mentioned last week, we had some scheduled maintenance here on our computers and in our production booth that took place over Thursday, Friday, and the weekend. A little bit of a gremlin yesterday affected the audio off the top of the show, so thank you for sticking with us, and thank you to Mike and our team for stick handling all this. How are you? How are you, Blake Price? Aren't you excited? It's the middle of July. It's absolutely gorgeous out there. We got massive soccer matches in our midst.
I'm a little bit jealous.
You don't have your mic on.
What's that?
I don't hear your mic on.
My mic's on.
Ah, there it is. What's his mic on, Mike?
Just kidding.
I'm a little bit jealous that you've played more golf than I have this summer.
Yeah, but I haven't played enough, Blake.
Really?
I was looking at I believe yesterday was round 38, 28. Not nearly enough. My goal is 52, one per week.
Well,
I fell just shy last year.
My goodness.
We've got to pick up the pace here in what's left of 2026. The problem was we didn't have enough nice Saturdays and Sundays in the spring because, of course, you can't play, sundown.
The World Cup put a real dent in
a lot of less golf because of the World Cup. The World Cup
28
has been
rounds
so great.
by this point is ridiculous.
Absolutely.
That's a lot.
My parents booked a show tomorrow, a matinee, and then my mom's like, wait a second, it's up against the England match. What the hell am I doing? Got to look at the sports schedule.
It's true.
Let's get to our top story today, brought to you by Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, Foolish Winery. There's a young right shot center who skates like the wind and has high amateur pedigree. He wants to be a Vancouver Canuck. In fact, our city is Shane Wright's preferred destination. That is the story today from the province's Ben Kuzma, who reported yesterday that Wright sees the Canucks as the best fit for his fledgling career. Shane Wright's preferred destination is Vancouver, quote, because of what the club could become in a few years. Those who know him are convinced he might be the most misunderstood player in the NHL, Kuzma writes.
Now, he's on his entry-level contract. He does not have any kibosh on any trades.
He's got no leverage whatsoever. In fact, he's a year away from restricted free agent status. He doesn't even have leverage there. He's not even arbitration eligible next year.
So he can want to go to Vancouver all he wants. They could ship him off to wherever they want to. So, it's nice that
is rare, the trade with a guy who's got no protection, right?
Yeah.
The NHL has changed so much.
Like, he can want Vancouver all he wants, but it's not going to likely affect the trade. It's not like he's a 10-year veteran of the Seattle Kraken, so they want to do right by him. Like, none of the usual trappings of the trade are really applied here. So,
and, of course, division rival.
Yeah.
If that's still a thing.
I would guess the Vancouver Canucks have to overpay here because there's nothing on the Canucks roster, Matt, that really just fits perfectly for the Seattle Kraken.
Kuzma reports Wright is, quote, an alpha male who is assertive and confident. Look, and I messaged with Kuz this morning. He's super busy, so he couldn't come on the show today. But when I asked about why the misunderstood player, that part of it, Coos mentioned that apparently when people think of Shane Wright, the thing that pops to mind first, and in some cases the only thing that pops to mind, is the death stare he shot at the Montreal Canadiens draft table a few years ago when they bypassed him for the first overall pick. They took Juraj Slafkovsky, the big Slovak winger. Coos told me, people interpreted that as him being difficult or cocky when it was more about competitiveness and the fact that the kid was hoping to fulfill a dream about being the first overall pick in the NHL draft, which didn't happen. He slid to number 4.
I just watched it again, though.
Kraken plucked him. It wasn't really that big a stare,
No.
I thought. I thought people made too big a deal about it at the time.
Because Montreal's front and center.
Right.
So it's really unclear that he's even doing that.
Back in the old days of the draft tables would be slotted based on where the pick is. So the team picking first has that table right in front of the stage.
In front of the dais.
Yeah, right. I mean, you got to walk right by him.
Yeah. So it looks like he's just resting his face because he's smiling with the Gary Bettman and then goes death stare, and then he smiles again for a new camera and then goes death stare again. But he's not really moving his head. So it looks like he's just kind of resting. It's hard to smile for minutes on end. But I don't recall being that affected by that behavior in the moment, and I certainly wouldn't let it affect my acquisition interest if I'm another team. As I said, just from a Canucks perspective, though, how do they make it work? If you can just blink and put him on your team, I've got no problem with that. Shane Wright's a very nice player that I think has good resurrection possibilities here. But I just don't see why it works with the Canucks.
He is only the 6th player ever to receive exceptional status in the Ontario Hockey League, which for many is the best junior hockey league in the world. He played in the Loop as a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
There have been 9 exceptional players in CHL history. But those in the Ontario Hockey League include Connor McDavid. You've heard of him?
Yep.
Michael Misa. You've heard of him. Aaron Ekblad. You've heard of him. John Tavares. You've heard of him. If you broaden out and go beyond the Ontario Hockey League, Landon Dupont, the presumptive first overall pick in next year's draft. Connor Bedard of North Vancouver. Yeah, he's...
Jay Bouwmeester?
Bouwmeester was not one,
Really?
believe it or not.
I thought he was.
Now, Joe Veleno hasn't really panned out. Sean Day never panned
No.
out. Sean Day was a huge right shot defenseman in the Ontario ranks who was just... He was a... He benefited from hitting puberty early. He became the biggest, fastest guy on the block and got to the OHL early. I believe a Rangers draft pick. It didn't even go in the first round. Like by the time he was 18, people had caught up to him.
Matt Savoy asked for one, was denied.
There have been a number who have been denied over the years. But that gives you a sense of the pedigree of Shane Wright. That at a very early age, and I know we had a lot of these debates or a lot of conversation around this topic when we were looking at Caleb Malhotra, a little bit late bloomer at 17, but you know what I'm saying, right? That more often than not, the best hockey players show themselves at a much younger age and work their way on up into the National Hockey League.
Yeah.
So, Wright had 12 goals last season, averaging 13 minutes and 48 seconds of ice time. That was 6 minutes less, as Coos pointed out, than Chandler Stevenson and Manny Beniers, the other center iceman with the Kraken. He had 19 goals the year previous, playing 14 minutes and 4 seconds. And look, this is a pretty well-rounded player. And of course, didn't have a lot of special teams time either. And there are people who believe he could be an all-situations player. Okay, maybe he's not a first-line center. Maybe the upside is second-line center. If he's even a third line center, it's a valuable asset. He captained Canadian teams at the 23 World Juniors and at the 2021 U18. So Hockey Canada has twice named him a captain. And typically that C at those levels go to one of, if not your best player, right?
It would be pretty funny because Wright, Malhotra, and Coots, while different styles, you could make the argument all of them are tough to imagine as surefire first-line centers.
And if you can't get that elusive number one center, what's the next best option for you? We saw this with teams like the St. Louis Blues and Boston Bruins who got to and won Stanley Cups. Just stack as many good centers as you can.
Well, and ultimately
have 2 to 3 second-line centers.
Pre-Eichel, the Golden Knights were like that.
Hey, two second-line centers, 2 third-line centers, you're pretty darn good down the middle.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe you're missing the pure difference maker at the top in the one hole. But that's a very elusive commodity. Canucks may get a chance to draft that commodity, Blake, over the next few years as the rebuild continues.
They may.
But may is the operative term there, right? You don't know for sure. It looks like a strong center draft next season. Long way to go. Some of these kids will fall off. Others will move on up the ranks, as we saw this year. People like Stenberg, but people weren't talking about him as vying for first overall until he did.
Or you get a guy like
Chase Reed.
You get a guy like Landon DuPont, and then all of a sudden, what you've got currently on defense becomes a trade chip for where
it's the other way.
Dominoes fall, right?
Well done. As for why Wright might so fancy the Canucks, well, I think he and his representative, Kurt Overhart, and we know Kurt on this program. We've known Kurt in this market for a long, long time. Kurt has represented Ryan Kessler and Ken Bieksa and Brendan Morrison and currently Z Buium. Well, there's available minutes with the Canucks this year, right? Okay, Rossi's going to play down the middle. Maybe Braden Coots plays down the middle. Caleb Malhotra isn't playing here this year. So you got available minutes. You have available special team minutes, too. We've talked about their penalty kill with J-Pat, not to mention the power play. A good dig here from our old friend Grady Sass. Wright's junior coach at Kingston in the Ontario Hockey League, Luca Caputi, is now an amateur scout for the Canucks. Now, you don't want to come to an organization because of an amateur scout, no matter what your history and background with him, because you're going to have very little to do with an amateur scout when you're an NHL roster player. But that should be someone who provides insight that's better than most to the Canucks on Shane Wright.
Yep.
Yeah, the young man, his personality, his work ethic, all those things.
And that helps the Canucks side of things. I don't think the Canucks side of things is necessarily the problem here. I think the biggest problem in this acquisition is going to be the Seattle side of things.
Yep. And the Kraken have asked for a young defenseman, Tom Villander, or Zeev Buium. And we think that's a non-starter, right? Certainly Buium's a non-starter.
Certainly Buium.
I do think you have to consider Villander. I know everybody likes Tom here. Look, he had a rough rookie season. I think a lot of that is attributed to the disastrous system that was Adam Foote and his coaching staff last year.
Mm-hmm.
Really love the way Villander skates. I mean, he's a beautiful skater. Love the competitiveness of the young man. There were a number of games this year where after the fact he was really hot, really down on himself. You can tell that there's an expected standard there of himself that's high, and you got to like that. Good with the puck. I don't necessarily think he's great with the puck. I'm not necessarily thinking he's ever going to be a power play quarterback, but of course, does he have to be when you've got Zeev Buium there? If you believe Tom Villander is a top pair defenseman down the road, then I think it's a non-starter. If you think Tom Villander is no better than a second pair defenseman, that's a very valuable commodity because he's a right shooter, and probably more valuable than if Wright tops out as a third line center. But if Wright gets to second line center, especially as a right shot center, and We know the Canucks have been scarce of that commodity in the past. Who can skate like that, and particularly if he's playing on both special teams. Which is going to bring us to our daily poll question in a second. First, Blake's going to tell you about Yellow Dog.
Yellow Dog's got fabulous beers on sale throughout the month, of course, and you don't want to miss out on cheaper beer. So go check out the Neighborhood Brewing's Way of Life Hazy IPA. 4 packs, tall cans on special for the month of July. Look for it on sale at your private and government liquor stores.
And I believe we got some breaking news here from Patrick Johnson we're going to get to in a second. Is that right? Okay, yes. We're going to get to that in a second. First, the daily poll question. Does Shane Wright make sense for the rebuilding Canucks? You can vote yes. You can vote no. Do so at the S&P X and YouTube channels. I'm voting yes. Of course he makes sense for the Canucks. This is exactly the sort of profile of player that Vancouver should be interested in as it goes about the rebuild. Of course, you're not taking on veterans here, but young players with upside should absolutely interest you. Shane Wright is a 22-year-old, so he has got a lot of runway left. Won't turn 23 until midway through this upcoming season. I hear you, Blake, in terms of the cost, but the other thing I think we can't understate here, if the Kuzma story proves accurate, and look, I know Ben knows Kurt Overhart in this market, like we all know Kurt Overhart in this market. He's had a ton of clients here. Those of us who have been covering this team for a while have all had our encounter. We've had Kurt on the show a number of times. In fact, just a couple of months ago, reached out to him about his ex-client, Ryan Johansson of Port Moody, who Kurt facilitated getting on the show, and he did a number of shows saying his thank yous as he was retiring from professional hockey. Fun conversation. So I do believe that Ben's got this story right. No pun intended. But this is a young man who wants to be a Vancouver Canuck right now. Like, Blake, how many guys around the league right now want to be a Vancouver Canuck? Given the early stages of a rebuild, all the crap that's gone on in their dressing room for the last few years, like, it is a short list of bona fide NHLers who want to be a Vancouver Canuck right now. Would be absolutely, yes, manna from heaven. Send me to the Vancouver Canucks. Now, of course, we heard that from the free agents they signed, and free agents sort of have to say that, right? But in the case of Luke Schenn, I wholeheartedly believe he wants to be a Canuck. I can buy that from Alexiak and Cotter as well, some of the newcomers. But, a guy who's looking for a trade and, please let it be Vancouver. That's a short list right now.
Well, he knows, first of all, he's a Canadian
Marcus
guy.
Pettersson out, right? Like other guys, DeBrusk is already
He's
expressed.
a Canadian guy. He might want to experience playing in Canada again, despite having a nice setup there with Seattle with its practice facility and nice new rink and such. But, he coming off a 27-point season or 25-point season, whatever it was, he's not a guy that can demand that he goes to a cup contender. And he also knows at the age of 22, if I go to a cup contender, I'm not playing. I'm not playing nearly in all situations that I want to play. I want to show that I can execute on the power play one. And I'm not doing that in 90% of the markets right now. But I'm going to get ice time. I'm going to get situations with Vancouver. And, hey, it's run by a bunch of nice guys who have some apparent nice, like Bulliam and Verlander. I think they wear their personality on their sleeves. Like, it's a good group of guys that he probably sees, hey, looks like a fun group. I want to be a part of that. Yep. And I get to play back as a number one center-ish.
I'm not sure he'd be that.
No, he wouldn't be the number one, but he would get,
he'd slot behind Rossi.
But he would probably get a strong look at PP1. Like,
yeah.
So I can understand where he's coming from.
It's funny. I just keep forgetting Elias Pettersson is on their center depth chart.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because I'm convinced they do want to move him. I also saw Canucks Army wrote something about, does it make sense moving him to the wing? So you're yes on the poll, you're no on the poll?
I'll say yes.
Okay.
Yeah, even though I don't.
You should say yes.
I'm saying yes, but Matt, I don't see the trade happening. Like, I don't think it's going to
Well,
happen.
okay, so the one
Two
thing,
different things.
and we know there's two camps in this market. Let's see if Manny Malhotra can fix Elias Pettersson. If we have to trade him, let's trade him at higher value than this. Let's give him another chance to see if he can rebound. And then the other, get him off of my team. He's been one of the problems in the room. The work ethic just isn't there to be great. He's not good for the young players. We've seen all this from Canucks fans. So let's just go down the road. Seattle has been looking for star power. They haven't been able to land it. Jason Robertson said no to them at $15 million a year, Blake.
Mm-hmm.
Might they have to set their sights a little bit lower down the totem pole of quote-unquote star players in the NHL, and rather than pursue a 40, 50 goal guy like Robertson, a former Calder winner, a former NHL All-Star, a former 100-point player in Elias Pettersson? I think that's something that Jason Botterill and his team may have to consider here.
Yeah, and then
with Wright as their best trade chip.
And then you also have to remember that Elias Pettersson has a say as well.
Right. And may say no.
Yeah.
But let's just play it out. Elias for Shane Wright. The Kraken actually are one of the few teams in the NHL that could just make that happen. A less than $1 million entry-level salary goes out, an $11.6 million salary comes in, and guess what? Even at that, they have $10 million of cap space. They're rocking $21.5 million in cap space right now, Blake.
I tried to find a shitty contract on the Seattle Kraken, and they really don't have one.
They don't even have like a pending RFA here. That's difficult. That's a tricky negotiation, and bigger money coming off their cap.
Honestly, the biggest problem with Seattle, they've got a bunch of really nice players. Mm-hmm. But they don't have cornerstone players. That's the biggest problem. You would happily take pretty much every single player to a man on the Seattle Kraken on your team. You really would. And that takes their contract into consideration. I'm saying you would take it all on, but they don't have somebody that drags you across the finish line.
That's right.
And is that Pettersson too?
I'm not sure it is.
No.
But how picky can you get?
No.
Here's the thing: if that trade were to go down, Canucks would be 3.5, just shy of million under the salary cap floor.
Yeah. Get ready for a bad trade after that.
Well, here's the list of remaining free agents, unless one of these guys has signed in the last couple of hours that I've missed. Look, a lot of veteran guys there. I'm not sure guys who would want to sign here. Anthony Mantha is interesting because he had a very nice bounce-back season with Pittsburgh last year. Plus, he's a monster who can score goals. Tolvanen's reasonably interesting, too. He's got his fans in the NHL. And then some of these guys may be worthwhile in terms of, okay, if they can't find a contender, you pay them more with the express purpose of trading them at the deadline, right? Tarasenko would be on that.
Even
Logan Stanley is
even
a
Line
big
A too.
defenseman.
If you can't get any takers on Line A,
I'm not sure I'd go there.
But yeah, and the problem with Line A too is his whole thing is again playing power play one, playing top line minutes to get offense. And do you really want him taken away from the young players you're trying to give those minutes to?
No, I would not touch Line A. I would not touch Klingberg. I don't think there's a hope in hell of Patrick Kane coming here. Ingram's a goalie. You don't need him.
No.
Perron, okay. Van Reems, again, I'm not sure what they return at the deadline. Stanley's a big son of a gun. He returned a fair bit.
Can't play.
From Winnipeg, for Winnipeg from Buffalo at the deadline. But yeah, Tarasenko, I think, is on that list.
Could you imagine the disinterest per 60 on the ice if they brought in Line A and Pettersson? Not into it stat would be pretty high there.
Boy, think of the intensity at practice with the two of those guys, huh?
Yeah.
We got a bit later in the show about the intensity of practice yesterday with the BC Lions and their new special teams.
Bring in that coach to coach special teams.
Right. Anyways, you can vote on the poll question. Does Shane Wright make sense for the Canucks? Yes, no, at the S&P, X, and YouTube channels. What is Patrick Johnston reporting about BC Place and Vancouver Whitecaps FC?
I'd say it's hot off the presses, but I don't even know if it's off the presses just yet. But Patrick
Okay.
Johnston is about to publish something regarding the BC Place arrangement with the Vancouver Whitecaps. Post Media understands that last week's Whitecaps management put forward a proposal to Pavco, the provincial crown corporation that runs BC Place Stadium, to take on managing the downtown facility, confirming a report first made Monday by Michael McCall of Away from the Numbers, AFTN, the well-regarded Vancouver-based soccer blog and podcast. So remember, that had been brought up months ago. And then ultimately the province is like, they've never asked us for that. And we were all kind of
I know. We were all surprised.
we're all like, okay, but we've all been talking about that, in the back channels, but it's never been formally brought up. Okay, it's on the table formally now. And people again wonder, okay, to refresh your memories to why this is a thing for the Whitecaps is the ability to sell permanent advertising inside BC Place Stadium. That no matter what is it, you're in there for a concert, the blah, blah, blah lounge, choose your favorite sponsor. That's what that's called. And you get a bigger number for that, and you're in control of that.
Sell your own pouring rights.
Yes.
We're bringing in this brewery as a partner as opposed to, these are the breweries that are already partnering with BC Place.
Yes. And just the ability, they think, to just be more efficient in the handling of the stadium, period.
Well, commodify some of the space that right now is not being commodified, that is non-revenue generating. When sports teams, their owners, and leagues go out to build stadiums and arenas these days, one of the things they concern themselves with is where's the revenue generating space, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like what kind of avenues, corridors, landings, patios, pick whatever your favorite nook or cranny of a stadium or arena would be that can be revenue generating space. And right now, BC Place is far from maximized on that score.
And because it's supposed to be agnostic, being a public building, like, is it clear enough that it is the home of the Whitecaps and the BC Lions? Like,
well,
should those colors not be more like? If
well,
it
they
was
light
private,
up the stadium, of course, in orange and blue now, and which looks beautiful against the downtown skyline. But yes,
but if you're outside of an NFL stadium, you know whose house that is.
Right. The one thing I'll say though, like the seats are specifically colored as they are for the purposes of television, particularly if they're not all full, to be able to blend in and look a little bit more full.
Well, certainly
than
for
they
the
would
Lions.
otherwise be. This is the Boston Bruins lesson. If you're not familiar, the Boston Bruins moved from the old Boston Garden to the new facility, which is still TD Bank North Garden, with 18,000 yellow seats, and they absolutely sucked. Like, this was the years where they were in contention for first overall and Joe Thornton. And so to go to a game in Boston was go to a sea of yellow empty seats.
Mm-hmm.
And the TV guys and sports operators looked at it and went, okay, can't have that. Got to be a more neutral color of the seats. Black blends in nicely, I might say. Now, the big question for me, we've talked about operating the BC Place and how it could be a very big help, but I'm not sure it's a solution to all that ails Vancouver Whitecaps FC from a financial point of view, particularly in an ever-expanding and ever more expensive MLS. But the big ticket item there, which you've done digging on over the last, I guess we're a year and a half into this now, Blake, more. Naming rights of BC Place. The province has had two goes with this, going back to the days of Premier Christy Clark. And the story's there. It was all set to be Telus Field at BC Place. The Whitecaps jersey sponsor at the time was Bell. People even say there's a sign somewhere in storage, Telus Field, Telus Place. And so whatever, that did not go forward. At the time, Premier Clark talked about how they felt there was brand value in having it called BC Place. BC is a big tourist destination the world over. Then the John Horgan government also took a look at naming rights for BC Place. In fact, there was to be a big study, think tank, what have you, explore it. And then the pandemic hit, and it got shelved as a lower priority item, and rightfully so. I mean, the province had bigger fish to fry over a couple of years there. But what Blake and I have been saying for many, many years now is as much as BC Place may be an iconic name for you, and frankly, probably what people would just call it anyways in the
It took a long time for Skydome to be washed from people's mouths.
Exactly.
Long time.
Time to time, I still make the mistake. There is significant revenue at stake for the province, remember. This is a publicly owned and operated facility. And, of course, for their operating partner, if that was to become Whitecaps FC, in putting a corporate name on the stadium. Like, you've done the math, Blake. You think it's worth how much per year?
I mean, it's guaranteed.
This is spitballing?
Guarantee it's 5.
Yeah.
I think you could shoot higher than that.
Yeah.
And you know, like you don't have to just get rid of BC Place. Tell us BC Place sounds fine to me.
Tell us Field at BC Place.
If RBC wanted it, BC Place, that doesn't work. But
RBC Place doesn't work.
No,
for
it
you?
does. It does.
I think that's perfect.
Yeah.
I think it's perfect.
And you know,
In fact, I met one of the nice RBC sponsorship folks a couple of weeks ago
and to be fair,
at Kids Fest reception.
RBC is a massive bank globally.
It's the biggest bank in the country.
And they're not the bank that's plastered all over all the arenas.
They had the arena in Raleigh at one point, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. But in Canada, Scotia's very prevalent. TD,
right.
BMO.
Yeah.
RBC isn't joining the
RBC,
fray.
you need a stadium.
Yes.
Right down the road here.
And the brand synergy is there.
RBC Place. Love it.
So, yeah, that's another
Here's the other thing.
probable factor in this.
RBC. Their mascot is a lion. You got Leo, you got the RBC lion.
You'd have Leo doing
You've got a pride, the pride of all BC. It's right there, RBC. You're the biggest company in Canada. We went over this last week.
And
You're bigger than Dollarama.
I'm willing to only take a small commission on making this connection. 1% of your annual profits, RBC. That's all I need.
I believe I have RBC in my portfolio. I believe it's done very well of late.
Yes, they do very well.
Wow.
Traditionally,
Market cap, $418 billion with a B dollars.
1% of that, and that's all I require.
Is the stock really going at 300 per now? Holy cow, RBC.
Again, they won't notice if they do it.
Exactly. You won't even need approvals for
No.
this. Somebody in marketing can just write this check.
10 schmil a year.
It doesn't
you
need to go to the
won't
board
even
or the
notice it.
CEO. Holy cow.
So you're right, though. It's not a solution. It's a helpful.
It's a big
step.
help.
They've talked about making 100 steps, and that's probably a big stride that maybe is 10 steps of the way, but it's just one of the factors that will help.
Well, the other thing I'll say to potential corporate naming partners of BC Place is, there's a very big Toronto company whose name is a 4-letter word right now in British Columbia and in Calgary, based on the cuts they've made in their media division, right? There is ground. Yeah, look at that. RBC, $300 a share now.
Is this Bloomberg news?
Oh
Come
my
on.
God. I can't believe
Mad
this.
money with Matt Sekeres.
I like the stock. What can I say?
Matt money.
No, but there's ground and traction to be made in these cities and provinces that are far flung from Toronto and seem to be getting the short end of the stick from corporate Canada. In some cases, heritage companies that like to lean into the fact that they're Canadian companies. Well, we talked about this this week as well. If you want to be known as a great Canadian company, then you need to till the soil, regard, and service Canadians from coast to coast.
Yeah.
all regions. I know it's a vast country. I know it it produces challenges geographically. We're this vast, vast space. But if you're going to be a Canadian company, a Canadian event, we say this about the RBC Canadian Open. It's really just the Greater Toronto Open. You don't bring Canada's oldest golf championship to Vancouver anymore. Mm-hmm. Hell, you barely even bring it to Royal Montreal anymore, where at one point it was a regular rotation spot for them. So, yeah, I would hope in the upper floors of Bay Street over this past week, Blake, there is some sort of discussion that is going on amongst public relations and marketing people and the top executives about, boy, have you seen the kicking that Rogers is taking in cities outside of this one? Is there lessons to be learned here?
Yeah.
If we're going to be a pan-Canadian company? Anyways, we'll see where that file goes. I must say, Michael and AFTN do terrific work on the Caps. Please get to AFTN, listen, support. We've had a big discussion about local media and locally produced content by and for British Columbians here over the last week. And as Patrick has done good work on that story as well. And speaking of local content, I came across this yesterday. This is a tweet from I presume a Canucks fan, but a 650 listener. For Canucks fans who miss Thomas Drance on the airwaves, here's a message he left on Reddit a few days ago, encouraging to hear we should have at least one podcast to tune into in the fall. Well, you have more than one, but here's what Thomas wrote. Hey, everyone. First of all, thank you for the kind words and commentary. Secondly, I wasn't going to be doing the show this summer anyway, no matter what, and this much I can promise you I'll be back doing a regular podcast in some form or format by the time the puck drops next season. Can't make any promises beyond that, but I do want you all to know that while 650 ceased to exist yesterday, this is absolutely not the end. I've been speaking with Thomas here over the last week, and we'll leave most of those discussions between us. He can make his own announcements, and as you saw what he wrote there, the one thing, and people don't necessarily understand this as well when you're outside the industry, is that in Thomas's case, he is an employee of The Athletic who was contracted to do work for Rogers on 650. Many of your favorite personalities on 650 were, of course, employees of Rogers Communications, Inc., and there is a big difference when a station shutters between being an employee and being somebody who was contracted to do work there. And I think what Tom is saying in that post is that, look, he was out of contract, or his contract didn't run through summers.
He was keeping his options open anyhow.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
And look, I invited Thomas to come on the show. These are still early days, but I suspect he will be back here on S&P at some point. He was with us as a regular in our first year here streaming. I used to have him on the old radio show as well. Very smart guy and a very important voice in terms of covering the Vancouver Canucks. So great news at what he is hinting. Of course, you can still read him in The Athletic. And we look forward to talking to Tom on this show and hearing more from Thomas as he goes forward after the closure of that station. Also looking forward to hockey prospects here. And for those of you who may be new to the program, I'm not sure it was quite the day that Quinn Hughes got traded, but shortly thereafter, so put it this way, at least for every calendar month of 2026, Blake and I recognized the score here. We recognized that the Canucks are marching towards rebuild, and now it's, of course, a confirmed rebuild in the front end of it. And that means hockey prospects become important to you, the Canucks fan. And we always cast an eye on hockey prospects, but hey, when teams trading out first-round picks, or way back in the day when the team's vying for President's trophies, well, it's not quite as top of mind. prospects are now top of mind in this market and with this fan base. And here's Cam Robinson, and Cam's on vacation this week. He's going to join us next week when he gets back. This summer's Hlinka, meeting the Ivan Hlinka tournament, Hlinka Gretzky tournament, has a chance to have some special talent. Landon DuPont, of course, the presumptive first overall pick of 2027, the right shot defenseman from the Everett Silver Tips, just down the road, WHL champions. While elite Blake 2010 born talents, they were born in the Olympic year. How about that, Brock?
Oh my God.
Mannix Schultz, we've talked about him with the Regina Pats. Liam Pugh, who's a local kid here. And then a couple of other names there to look at for drafts down the line.
Joey Cullen, I'm going to guess.
Is that another one of
That'd be
the
another
Cullens?
Matt,
Wyatt's?
And then Sasha's brother, Wilson Boumedienne, in the mix.
Sasha is the Jets' first-round defenseman, if I'm not mistaken, Swedish kid.
Yeah.
Right. The other thing we should mention, and Jeff Merrick previewed this with us last time we had him on, and Jeff's also away this week. He'll be back on the show next week. Carter Meyer is a top prospect for next year's draft. He's a American centerman, and he asked for and got his release at the U.S. National Team Development Program in Michigan.
And getting out of that program is a little akin to getting out of the KHL. They do not like to release talent to go elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. So he could very well be plying his trade with the Quebec Rempart of the QMJHL because they hold his rights in the CHL. And if that takes place, then I think you're going to have some Canucks fans keeping an eye on QMJHL games this coming season because Alexei Joseph is the top-ranked center as we sit here and discuss the 2027 NHL draft right now. A 6'5" centerman in St. John of that league. And if Carter Meyer were to wind up with Quebec, then you would have two of what looks like a pretty good and deep center class next year, Blake, playing in the Q.
Did you see
bunch of good European centers next year?
Did you see the 2018 draft or 2028 draft eligibles? The pair of 6'7" twins in the United States, Trevor and Nolan Shorter. 6'7" twins. So combine the two fascinations of the last draft, big people and twins. Mm-hmm. Put them together, you get the Shorters of 2028.
It just writes itself.
It's unbelievable.
Look, as a tall person, I have heard every tall joke you can imagine. Mm-hmm. How's the air up there? Like, honestly, I can only imagine when you're 6'7" at 17 or 16.
Yeah, 16 at this point, yeah.
With a last name shorter, how sick of it these two kids are.
Oh, my gosh.
But the bottom line here is just about every program, we're going to have some sort of nugget on hockey prospects because we know that's the appetite going forward. All right, let's get to our menu today. It's brought to you by our friends at Greta, a fantastic spot to pregame or postgame. If you're looking for a venue for a private event, Greta is your jam. Why? They got everything you need for your guests to have an unbelievable time. They got a private space on a riser at the back of the bar. It's got its own full-service bar right there, so you won't wait around for drinks. It's surrounded by screens. You can watch whatever game you want. And, of course, the arcade. Everybody loves the arcade. Games for everybody. If you like some of the driving simulators, they're chock-a-block. They got Papa Shot. They got legacy video games. And they have a delicious menu of approachable street food. For more information to book your event, go to gretabar.com, Greta 50, West Cordova. Let the games begin. We're going to talk to Rob Williams here in a moment, the editor of the Daily Hive in Vancouver, the national editor as well, sports editor of the Daily Hive and its Offside Sports vertical. Our first chance talking to Rob about everything that's happened here in local Vancouver media over the last week, so we'll do that. We'll also talk about I'm not sure anybody has enjoyed World Cup as much as Rob. When you look at his timeline and see everywhere he has been in our city, enjoying this soccer festival. But I mean, like, it goes beyond a soccer festival. It's just been a hell of a, like, you didn't give a single lick about soccer. It's been a hell of a party.
Yeah. I mean, my brother and his wife are not
Soccer people,
and they've been at the they've been like season ticket holders to FIFA Fan Fest.
Yeah,
for
no, I
heaven's
know.
sakes.
It's been a great vibe. So we'll talk to Rob about that later in the program. A public official gave a press conference in a Speedo and sneakers yesterday here in this town.
You don't want to miss it. I mean,
Speedo,
I could understand why that
sneakers,
repels you, but
socks, microphone. He was speaking at a microphone in a Speedo, sneakers.
it's
and
SCTV,
socks.
really, isn't it?
It honestly,
Eugene Levy.
it could be Eugene Levy in 1974.
Well, they just want the pool reopened. Swimming's good for the cardio.
Alas, I'm guessing that Eugene Levy would have had more flesh covered up than this gentleman from the Parks Board yesterday.
Eugene's he's been half naked on TV before. He's a very hairy man.
Hairy man.
So, different visage than this gentleman.
So we'll talk Whitecaps. They got a victory in the aggregate of the Canadian Championship quarterfinal. Yes, they expecting a big crowd when they return to BC Place as well. The BC Lions have a new special teams coach. He lit up practice yesterday. Absolutely love it. Baseball's home run derby fell a little bit flat last night. Anyways, plenty coming up later in the program. Time now for our Bet365 bets of the day. I took a future yesterday.
So did I.
I am on France
The
today.
future kind of weak
Yeah,
because of
yeah.
the slowdown. So.
Yeah. Some call this the quietest week in the sports calendar year, at least in North America.
Yeah.
When you got World Cup semifinals and World Cup final, you sort of fill the gap, right? When you
Yep.
got the Open Championship, you sort of fill the gap. When you got the CFL and the MLS, Canadian Championship, you fill the gap. I'm a broadly interested sports fan. So, okay, baseball's off for a few days. So be it. Blue Jays have been downright unwatchable anyways.
They happen.
It's England, it's Argentina, it's the drama kings of international soccer. There's no way this doesn't go to extra time, if not penalties. A result beyond regulation pays plus 187 tomorrow.
I'm going to look at the Major League Baseball All-Star Game, and you're thinking, why? And I'm saying, because that's all we've got.
You're not going CFL? You could go CFL on the lines on Friday.
That's what I did yesterday.
Oh, right.
All-Star Game MVP is up for grabs.
Go hitter.
Kyle Schwarber.
There you go.
He's the favorite, but it's plus 1,400.
There you go. And he leads the world in home runs.
So you just go favorite at this point.
The worst thing about hockey season, at some point every year, it ends. There's a lot of time between now and the first puck drop of next year. And if you're accustomed to watching nightly games, we understand it's withdrawal. The good news, Bet365 still has plenty of games, just none that require skates. At Bet365 Casino, you can choose between hundreds of slots, live tables, and your favorite games. Well, maybe your second favorite games. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. Rob Williams, next. Sekeres and Price from the historic Wall Center. We connect with the national sports editor of the Daily Hive and its Offside Sports vertical, Rob Williams. Rob, the hockey guy on Twitter, Rob, the football guy over the last month, and he is absolutely not doing this hit from a storage closet.
Nope. Head office.
Nothing to see there.
Nope.
How you doing, fella?
Doing great, guys. Feel like there's a bit of World Cup hangover starting to sink in. It's kind of weird, right? Like it's different than, remember the Olympics? Like they came in and it was just awesome for like the full 2.5 weeks, and then it just ended on that last day. Ended with a bang. Ended with Sidney Crosby scoring the golden goal and the closing ceremonies right after. And then we were like, geez, what the hell hit us? This is sort of like, kind of came in with a bang, but then there's kind of peaks and valleys, right? It depends on like, is there a game scheduled in Vancouver that night? Is there not? And then it kind of ends with that last match at BC Place, and they take the branding off of, they're already taking the branding off BC Place, and they closed down Jackpool Plaza. I was there last night and saw that. It's just like, you see like a fenced off area with a bunch of equipment and whatnot around there. But like, you know, other things are still going on, right? There's still the Fan Fest. Gravel Street, I think, still going to be a vibe this week until the final match.
You're not lying. The Olympics ended so abruptly. I can remember getting back to my apartment after the wrap party late on that Sunday night and just sitting down and crying, like just emotional release. Listening to Nikki Yanofsky's, I believe, or J'imagine at high volume, and just letting it all pour out after 18 days.
You voluntarily listened to that song after hearing it 17,000 times? Oh, my gosh.
Well, you bring that up. We asked on our poll question last week, Rob, 2010 Olympics, 2026 World Cup, better sporting experience in the city. What says you?
Still got to go Olympics. I don't know if anything can top that. That was unreal. But this one really exceeded my expectations. I had high expectations going in, but I didn't foresee the number of watch parties that we were going to see. I didn't foresee Gravel Street being anywhere near what it was going to be. I mean, think about like traditionally Commercial Drive was the place for like congregating during the World Cup and Euros and whatnot. You know, maybe Italy not being in it took away a little bit of that steam, but like, it's just not anywhere near, you don't have anywhere near the capability to celebrate like you do on Granville Street. So the number of people have just been launched into the air, is that, I don't know if that's like the Mexican fan tradition or what, where they just get like thrown into the air. Like, it's awesome. Like, who saw that coming? I certainly didn't. The Fan Fest going into it, I was worried that, geez, they put it away from downtown. They're gonna spread it themselves too thin. That was fantastic. So like, yeah, there's so many things like that have just exceeded my expectations, and I thought were wonderful, and that's even saying that we kind of got kind of a crappy draw in Vancouver. Other than, you know, we got 7 matches. That's great. We got Canada twice. That was awesome. But like, we didn't get Brazil here. We didn't get Argentina here. Like, we didn't get those big teams. We got Belgium, and it was okay. They're good, but they're not, they're not top 5 good, right? So we didn't get those powerhouse teams like Toronto did. I thought Toronto got more of those big. It's
luck of the draw, though, right?
Teams.
Like Portugal was on a collision course here.
No. The first 5 games were not luck of the draw. We were assigned those games. The last 2 were luck of the draw.
It's still literally luck of the draw when the World Cup draw happens, right? So even that was already decided.
I mean, they had their inclinations on who they wanted.
We didn't have the Norwegian rowers here. Scotland didn't drink us dry, right? Like, the Aussies did their best to drink us dry.
We had the Australians. Come on,
we always have the Australians.
True. That's not very
exotic. Neighborhood at UBC called Little.
I hadn't done the accounting.
And despite that, it was awesome, right?
Yeah.
Like, it was so much fun, and it's still good. It's still good. And I think the thing that was really cool, and I think we saw it on the TSN broadcast, were even when there was a match that was not being played in Vancouver.
That's it.
There was people congregating around those screens to cheer on their clubs, because everyone's from somewhere, particularly in Vancouver.
And you might poo-poo who we got, but the fact that we got the 7, I hadn't seen the accounting of who got what. Vancouver was, I think, 5th among whatever the 16 cities that were hosting in terms of volume of games. So we were one of the primary places to play, despite being in the 4th smallest venue on the list. I mean, we did pretty good in terms of the volume of games, and that's it. Unlike the Olympics, where it's all here, we have a fraction of the events actually in the entire event, and it still felt this good in the city.
That's right. I mean, think about all the naysayers coming into the tournament that were, one of the common refrains was like, all this, we're paying all this and doing all this for 7 games, right?
Yes,
and it was always like just for 7 games. And it's like, yes, but like those 7 games were incredible. And and so much of it didn't matter necessarily if the game was there, right? Like totally. And I don't think you can put on, the next World Cup is not going to feel the same as this one. You can't you can close down Granville Street and have watch parties, for games that are happening in Spain and Portugal and Morocco, but it's not going to be the same when you're not a FIFA host city. So I think that having that distinction really did elevate the rest of the tournament, within the city.
Here's the other thing, guys. Of the 7 games we got, 2 were absolute blowouts. Canada over Qatar, 6-0. Belgium over the Kiwis, 5-1. We probably got the lowest profile round of 32 game in Switzerland, Algeria. The get-in price was below $300 by the time that one kicked off, Rob. That was actually an affordable game, if you will. And probably the lowest profile round of 16 game too with Switzerland and Colombia, and yet it goes the distance into penalties with all of that great drama. So you could even pick apart the games that we got, and I still think at a macro level overall the vibe and the experience was extraordinary. I mean, Rob's talking about throwing people in the air. I mean, if you have projectile humans, that is a great event right there, right? Like, that is something to get excited about if human beings are being projected.
And masked wrestlers.
Exactly.
Impromptu.
We saw Nacho Libre on Granville Street one day after a match. Mike was like, look at this. Like, they're
and again, Mexico was not playing in the city.
No, Mexico was not in the city. They were on television.
Guys.
The Mexican fans were there. They got excited. They broke out their best wrestling maneuvers. It was awesome.
I even went to, after Canada lost to Switzerland, I watched the Korea South Africa match at a Korean restaurant on Robson Street, and the place was packed with many Koreans. The match was being shown in Korean, like with the volume up in the restaurant. Like there's it was awesome. And I was fist pumping when South Africa was scored, so I felt a little bit funny there. But yeah, like little watch parties like that. Like every restaurant wanted to embrace the World Cup. Every restaurant was trying to rebrand itself as a FIFA watch party location.
But even theaters, we drove by a theater the other day that I will not name, and they were advertising the semifinals. And Carmen looked at me. She's like, "They play the soccer at like theaters like this?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, they play the soccer everywhere. They can play the soccer." Was there a single commercial television in Vancouver at any bar, restaurant, hotel, like name any place of commerce where the TV was not tuned to the World Cup match?
I had to go and get a SIM card for my daughter, so I was in a tiny little cellular store watching the game on I forget what game it was, on my phone while I'm conducting the business, and the guy that wasn't helping me taps me on the shoulder and says, "We got it right here," and it was on a nice 40-inch TV.
And Rob, I want you to know, because I know how proud an East fan guy you are, and you mentioned Commercial Drive, which has traditionally been the epicenter of Vancouver's World Cup viewing. I had a guest come to town from rural Eastern Ontario. We had tickets to Switzerland, Canada. And we had an off day there. And he said, "Look, I want to do some quintessential Vancouver things." I'm like, "Okay, what do you want?" He's like, "I want some great dim sum." We went for dim sum. Norway, France was going on. He goes, we got to watch Norway, France. I'm like, you're damn right we got to watch Norway, France. I said, I will take you to my favorite cafe on Commercial. And Rob, we walk in there, Italian cafe. It is standing room only for Norway, France, and everybody is fixed on the match. And there aren't many partisans in the cafe either. It's just neutrals. People wanting to watch the soccer as neutrals and see a great game between Holland and all the French stars.
But Cahal Kelly says that we should focus on hockey
honestly,
soccer.
You're giving him lifeblood, Blake. I didn't even want to mention it. Like, he writes these things for exactly that express.
You know what? I saw someone post the link to the article, and I saw the headline on Twitter, and I saw what publication it was from, and I went, I know exactly who wrote this one.
Yeah.
Hey, I respect the troll. I respect the.
Gives media a bad name.
Hold on. So I spent 4 years in that department, and I assure you, let's be the troll of Canadian sports media was never a discussion. No. I mean, for fuck's sake, Brunt wrote there for 25 years, and then this one's going on with stupidity every time they publish.
Rattled him.
So I am rattled by you bringing that up. Yes. I would have preferred you not.
That was worth it.
Respect Blake's troll there. That's good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Inter-office troll.
Yeah. And like, here's the other thing, Rob, and I may have a different perspective on this. I'm half British and a quarter English, but we are in British Columbia. I feel like we sort of have a half home team left here at the World Cup. I was at the England-Norway match at the amphitheater on Saturday, and hey, fair play. Big shout out to the Norwegian fans, because there were more than I expected. But my goodness gracious, when Jude Bellingham scores and that place goes crazy, and that place breaks out in Hey Jude in song. England winning a World Cup is, one of the big checklist items in global sport.
Well,
right?
Totally. And for it to happen on North American soil on our
before
watch.
I die, that phrase, when uttered by sports fans.
People would never forget this World Cup.
Right.
If England did that.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Like, that would be the moment.
Yeah. I mean, whether you've got English background or like, maybe I do it on some level. I haven't gone back that far enough on the family tree, but for me, following England is always it's interesting, obviously, just because we speak the same language, so I know what they're saying. But B, the fan, the English fans, for all the good and all the bad, like, boy, are they entertaining, boy, are they interesting. So for me, that's always a team that I pay closer attention to. And I think it would be really cool if England could get it done, could get it done in this tournament. And it's kind of not going to matter who really, I guess, I don't know. There's so many Messi fans that, like, if it's Messi in the final, like, that's going to be something. If it's England in the final, that's going to be something. So it's going to be great regardless.
All right. Well, the World Cup will wrap up on Sunday from one hole in the city to another, Rob. And that is the demise of sports talk radio in Vancouver after a quarter century, 9 years of Sportsnet. 6:50 a.m. It's our first opportunity to talk to you. I know you and the Daily Hive folks have been writing about this nonstop over the last week. Some thoughts and impressions there, sir.
Yeah, first of all, just gutted for everyone that's lost their job. I think that it's something that hits home, I think, because for all of us that are lucky enough to work in sports media, it's like a dream job, right? To be able to cover sports, and do that for a living. And so when you see people that have lost their job in that industry, it's gutting for them, because, I'm sure many of them are gonna find new homes and find other work, but some might not, right? Or you're gonna have to transition to something else. So obviously gutting for all of them. And then just in terms of myself, just like I was a sports radio junkie. I remember Team 1040 when it started. Listened to it all the time. I remember before I got into sports media, I had a job interview at an office, and I walked into the office. It was like less than 10 people in the office, and they had the radio in the office, like the communal radio. Most offices would have some music radio station, some FM station. This one had, I can't remember if it was Team 1040 or TSN 1040, but they had 1040 on, and I thought, this is the communal thing that they listen to in the office. I'm like, this is going to be awesome. Like, I get to listen to sports radio all day. And they did. That was the standard. We listened to sports. So I listened to 8 hours of sports radio every single day when I was at this job. It was a lot of sports radio, particularly in the summer, but it was great. I loved it. So to see that now off we've now lost our last sports radio station is a little bit sad, but I do think it's, I know, and I listen to you guys, obviously you guys have great perspective on the industry. It's changed, right? And I think I draw some parallels to what happened with newspapers, right? There used to be however many, I think the first time I went in the press box, there was probably 8 newspaper writers up there, right? Now it's changed considerably. We still read Patrick Johnson and Ben Kuzma, but I don't do it from a newspaper, right? I do it from online. And now you've got more options than you used to have before. So it's just fractured in many different areas. And for me, sports radio had already become that, where how often did I actually turn on the radio dial to listen to Sportsnet 650 in the last number of years? Not often. I listen to shows, but I listen in podcast form, right? Listen to Sekeres and Price on their way home. I listen to Halford and Bruff, and going in the car in the morning, right? That was more my routine, or you tune into different podcasts depending on what guests they had on or whatnot. So I think it's a sign of the times, obviously, in what's happened there.
Let's not forget, guys, I have shuttered 2 sports radio stations in this town. Let's not continue the erasure of Mojo Sports Radio 730. Yes. There has been 3 sports stations in this town, and Mojo's been getting no love in the last week.
Were you on with Arthur Griffiths? Was that the show, Blake?
No, he was on before me.
Okay.
Yeah.
He did lunch.
Yeah.
Is there anybody who has the black hat trick here of all 3? Was there anybody at Mojo who was also at
Dolly was at all 3
at different times?
Yeah, he wasn't an employee at of 650 at the time,
right?
But he closed the other 2. So a lot of people have the brace,
well,
if you will.
The one thing that we've been trying to say here, and drawing on our own example, but Donnie and Dolly as well, and not to mention examples from other markets, is while there may no longer be an appetite for Rogers Communications Inc. to do terrestrial sports talk radio in Vancouver, there is no diminishment in the demand for sports talk in Vancouver, and there should not be a diminishment in the support, particularly local support and sponsorship of sports talk in Vancouver. The last week, such a range of emotions, and most difficult and particularly upsetting for our friends and former colleagues at 650. I have been trying to remind myself, we talked a little bit about this last week, Blake, that it may well be that media is coming full circle and back to the point of, instead of being owned by a faraway telecom conglomerate, that it's owned by people here on the ground.
Did you say media or radio?
media. That it's owned by people here on the ground. Like our market for us, our ownership, everything is in-house here within the confines of Vancouver or British Columbia, where we don't have to rely on decision.
But you need to make money off it, Matt. So like you need somebody to fund that.
That's why you need people in Vancouver and BC to step up and support their own, much like we're seeing in other. We're seeing that here, Blake.
Like you need media buyers for the various companies in the corporate community to look at the numbers that are being produced by these local shows and actually give them credibility.
Yeah, and also understand that media buying and sponsorship and advertising is not the sole purview of the GTA in this country. Yeah. And I think many do.
And, and just getting back to like the how the models changed, like think about how every podcast now is a video podcast, right? You've got many people watching on YouTube, but it's not just that. It's also the clips that Mike chops up and throws on social media, right? And those are things that get sponsors and get tons of views. You might get people I think there's lots of shows where you might not be someone that listens to the whole show podcast, but you see all the social clips and you're engaging with it in that way. So it's a different world, right? It's the different media landscape and all the and I think you're quite right. And like there's still the demand there. Like people still want to consume this. It's just the way we consume sports radio is now different. It's now on social media. It's now through podcasts.
Do you want to quickly do one more thing?
Well, I just want to say he makes a good point about social media clipping, because so many people, particularly young people, it's just a timeline scroll, right? Yeah. So it's bite-sized. It's basically serving your audience as it wants to be served. For those who just want a snack, an hors d'oeuvre, or for those who want to sit down for a full 3-course meal.
Do you just quickly want to get your take on how your Shane Wright Canucks jersey is going? Because you seem to have bought hook, line, and sinker
with you, Rob.
into that storyline.
Well, here's my one point on Shane Wright is that the talk was like, okay, Seattle wants Zeev Buium or Tom Willander, and I was like, okay, yeah, Zeev Buium, I think that's a we're not doing that, of course, and of course everyone wants to trade Jake DeBrusk and name another veteran player to get Shane Wright, of course, but why is Seattle making that deal? So you got to give up something to get something. Should we be so quick to say no to Willander for Shane Wright? A lot of people responding to my tweet saying absolutely not for Willander. And to that, I wonder if the Canucks were the team that picked Shane Wright 4th overall, a guy that could have gone 1st overall, and has already put up more than 40 points in a year and already put up a 19-goal season. Would they be saying no to a trade for a guy that's 1 year younger that was picked 11th overall in the draft? I don't think they would. I think they'd say absolutely not. We got to get way more for Shane Wright. So I think it's interesting. I don't like trades to fast track the rebuild, but if you can find a guy that maybe is on the way out, maybe his value is being diminished, and you can get a prospect with a higher ceiling, I think it's worth exploring for sure.
Rob, I want to be clear when I say this. This is absolutely the profile of player the Vancouver Canucks should be looking at. I'm not sure it should be this specific player, Shane Wright, although I still hear good things about him from people who I talk to in hockey that believe there's a good future here. But this is one you're quite right. If you can move him for a roster player, even if it's a young roster player, you have to ask yourself the question: do we get ahead? If you can move him, certainly for veterans and money, and Lekramaki, ex prospect or prospect who's lost some luster, I think you have to look at that. Rob, I would go so far as to say you also have to look at future draft picks for this player. If that now, I don't think that's what Seattle wants, because we all know Seattle wants star players. Yeah. Seattle wants to up its lot in life, but this is why you're amassing the draft capital that they're amassing with multiple picks in every draft, or more than the allotment of picks in every draft between 2017.
Not doing it, right? Lekramacky in a second's not doing it.
No, probably not, because again, I think they're holding out for roster players and somebody who gets their NHL project going a little further. But hey, if it's a young man who doesn't want to be there, and I think it's now pretty clear he doesn't want to be there, it's a diminishing asset. It's the price doesn't usually go up from here, Blake.
No,
so
it doesn't.
Seattle may have to, while it's not their preference, consider all sorts of modeling on what a Shane Wright trade could look like.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is why Ryan Johnson gets paid the big bucks, right? Like, you got to figure out what is Willander going to be, right? If Willander's going to be, if he's a future top pair defenseman and Shane Wright is, becomes a middling middle six center, then you're going to lose that deal. But this is you're paid, and your pro scouting is paid to figure these things out. You've got to make a bet, and you got to figure out which one of these guys is going to succeed and which one of them is not. And we'll see. I'm not professing to be a Shane Wright expert, but I'm just looking at the profile, and it looks like a guy that's like, geez, okay, this guy, could be something pretty big.
One last question. I should have asked it when we were having the 650 discussion. And I don't know if you've done any reporting on this, Rob, but Canucks games on radio, and we know that people don't listen to games on radio like they used to, especially with every game televised. I did get a note from someone who's overseas today saying, hey, I've heard you guys talk about Canucks games on radio. Understand, for us Canucks fans who are out there in this broader world,
geo-blocking is annoying.
Sometimes getting a television feed of the games is more difficult. I'm also thinking of our buddy Juggy Bajwa, of course, visually impaired, occasional anthem singer at Rogers Arena. Juggy was huge listeners to us, especially this guy in the post-game show, and appreciated the radio call because it tended to be more descriptive and allowed him to, in his mind's eye, the theater of the mind, and create the game there. Somebody told us it may not be as simple as just moving it on to a Rogers FM station, because the contract could specifically call for the games being on 6:50 a.m., Sportsnet 6:50 a.m. Are you hearing anything there about Canucks radio and where they're going to wind up, and whether or not there's even a possibility that NW, the legacy home of the Canucks, gets back involved here?
I did write on this, and Rogers PR said that the game's going to be moved to another Rogers-owned station. So that leaves just two, because they have no more AM stations. So that leaves Jack FM or 104.9. So the Kiss Throwbacks, whatever it's called. So that leaves one of those two. It sounds like
Rob, that's
Jack
what Rogers says. Like what?
Yeah, I guess.
What have the Canucks said here? Because everybody has said, whoa, they haven't put out a statement yet on 650. Like, could there be some behind the scenes?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did ask the Canucks. They had no comment on it. So we'll see where that lands. I mean, it differs obviously from Calgary, where they've just said, no, we're just giving up the rights. So quite a bit more uncertainty, I'd say, in Calgary than Vancouver. But yeah, it sounds like it's going to FM for next season. So that's going to be really interesting to see how that.
So strange that it's a different approach
Rob,
in two different cities. Like, where you think? Yeah. The same company.
So, Rob, in full disclosure, we're recording this here in the morning. There's a terrific Spanish place down at English Bay that you may want to check out for the game today. I've got a number of French restaurants that I adore in the city. I'm sure you know many of them. So get on out there, drink every last drop of this in. And, of course, tomorrow, England, Argentina. Enjoy the last week and weekend here of World Cup. And thank you for the time, good sir. Try not to be projectiled anywhere here.
I was going to say, we'll see how good a time I have on Granville Street. I'm not far away.
Sekeres and Price from the historic Wall Center, the Nation Network studio built by Arbor Lee. Tickets secured, hotel solved. Make the Wall Center your downtown headquarters for every big game, concert, rivalry night. See what's happening at wallcenter.com. Before we get into the guts of this segment with the soccer, the football, the baseball, we have an update coming off Rob Williams here. He's kind enough to tweet. One appearance on Sekeres and Price for Jody Vance, and look what happens. Yes, Mayor Ken Sim yesterday, through his support behind Jody's cause, long-standing fight for no online bookings at the iconic Kits pool. Just show up, pay your ticket, get access to the pool. We had Jody on the show last week, and
we used
had
to
give her time to give her, had to give her time to get that out. So here's Jody Vance reacting to the news, or at least the opinion from Mayor Sim yesterday, courtesy of Sitka Media.
I feel that this iconic community amenity is being gatekept from the citizens in Vancouver and really British Columbia, because this, I believe, is a national treasure. It's unlike any of the other pools in its size, its scale, its gorgeous views. But more important than anything, I feel like there's a generation of children who are missing out on the experience of learning to swim, gathering, swimming, lazing by the pool, being fit, touching grass, as they say. But just, they're kids that aren't coming here because young people and teenagers don't make reservations to go to the pool. And we need to reopen it and make it welcoming for them and a place where they know that they can come at any time between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. and just come in and go swimming.
Yeah, drop-in swimming. Kids Pool is 137 meters long. It is more than 2.5 times the length of an Olympic pool. It's heated, it's salt water, and yeah, it sits right on the ocean and with spectacular views of downtown Vancouver. Alas, that was not the end of the story, because the Parks Board, which runs Kids Pool,
had a retort.
They wanted their say as well.
This is Tuchel versus Bellingham.
Let's bring up the visual here, Mike, if we can. For those of you on audio pod, you really need to be checking out YouTube.
Wow.
So in the middle there, leave that up for a second, Mike. Yeah. In the middle there, that's Park Board Chair Thomas Digby. He's the one clothed.
Thanks for blowing that up, Mike.
Looks like Birkenstocks. He's got, his khaki shorts. He's got his long sleeve buttoned up. And that's Brennan Bastiovansky in the Speedo.
Banana hammock with socks and shoes. You don't normally see that outfit.
No, exactly. One would think flip-flops would be the footwear if you're going
You're
Speedo.
that naked. But you're going socks and shoes.
Got a bit of a Randy and Leahy vibe.
Yeah, there is. You're right. There really is. Although neither one, Randy or Leahy, are that fit. He's Mr. Whomever is in good shape.
Bastiovansky, he's in fantastic shape. He's yoked up. He looks like he could play DB for the Lions. So the Parks Board argued that long lines to get in at Kits Pool had people fainting of heat stroke. Bastiovansky noted that the presser interrupted his lap swimming, and you don't interrupt the lap swimming at Kits Pool. 137 meters. They're very serious about their lap swimming. I know this from experience.
Why is this such an odd number? Why wouldn't it be a 125-meter pool?
That's the great part about it, Blake. They're like, projects like this don't happen anymore. There's like, we had more space. What are we going to do?
Just fill
more
it in.
Pool. Make it 137 meters.
Hard to have
because we can.
Did they ever have swim meets there? Like
endurance swim meets, maybe? Like Michael Phelps saw it once and was like, man, that's too long a lap.
Like 2 laps is a 274-meter race.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard of that one in the Olympics. Who won gold in the 274 breast?
Mm-hmm. Bastiavansky said, he dropped into the pool because he was feeling spontaneous and wanted to go back to his lap swimming. Alas, his allotted book time expired at 3 p.m. and the media was keeping him beyond. Now, I messaged Jody last night. Blake and I have known Jody forever. And if we can bring the visual of Jody back up here with her presser in front of the kids' pool. I said to Jody, I said, it's a story about a pool on a hot summer day, while standing in front of a pool, tank top, more than appropriate. She said, Matt, that's the first time I have been sleeveless on television. I said, yeah, I get it.
Bravo.
Exactly. Appropriate. Then there's Bastiovansky. What's he thinking? Is he just proud of his physique and I'm going to show it off?
I think that's what it is.
That's the only play here, right?
That's the only play.
Like, he must know I'm a public official. A Speedo press conference is really not something that people look for out of their public officials.
It doesn't add credibility to what you're saying, I don't think. We get it. You swim.
So the undertext here, the underlying is that Mayor Sim, of course, tried to abolish the Parks Board before the province said, well, we'll see about that. It's more complicated than just a stroke of a pen, Mayor Sim. I'm sorry you don't have executive power like at 1600 Pennsylvania where you can just do what you want. There are rules.
I commend Mr. Bastiovansky for not having George Costanza's worries around the pool.
I was in the pool.
I mean, clearly a warmer day allowed him to have some extra confidence.
Boy, there's a thorough examination here, Blake.
No, no examination. God, no. Just saying.
So the bottom line.
That didn't pass through his mind. First thing out of my mind would be like, I was just going to present.
Am I really giving them my best?
Right. I would be worried about that. I'm going robe.
With the sneakers and socks.
Well, if you're wearing a robe, your sneakers and socks is fine.
The guy who should be in flip-flops or sandals is in sneakers and socks. The other guy's in the Birkenstocks.
Yeah, they should have swapped.
So the bottom line is that there's so much friction between the mayor and the Parks Board. The mayor just might be for this because the Parks Board isn't doing it and vice versa. But really, is there any coming back from a Speedo press conference, Blake? Like, can you get over that hump?
Which hump?
These are not dramatic Brian Cox pause serious people. That's right, Brian Cox, the actor from Succession.
You had to go there.
Thought it was fitting. Anyways.
By the way, Second Beach Pool, also a nice pool.
Great pool. Great pool. Also beautiful overlooking the ocean.
Pointing the other direction.
Now, not 137 meters.
No. But a little more sun-soaked, I would say.
Yeah, I mean.
Because it's facing the south.
You have to get quite late in the day, really, to lose the sun at Kids Pool.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, I'm prepping the show today. I get the text. Kids Pool after I'm done work. So she's making an online reservation.
Oh, there you go.
We'll be there later. I most assuredly will not be in
no
Speedo.
The world rejoices.
Indeed. Whitecaps earn a 1-1 draw versus Cavalry FC in Calgary last night, but they advanced 5-2 on the aggregate of this Canadian Championship quarterfinal. They're off to the semis where they will face MLS rivals CF Montreal. And we might not be able to say that for too much longer. MLS rivals, Vancouver and CF Montreal. Mikhail Gerasimenko with the Caps goal. Great story here. He was one of the best players in the CPL last year with Cavalry.
Loaned there by Vancouver. And scores a beauty last night.
It was a beautiful goal. And, hey, is Caps player development at it again? Have they found another diamond in the rough here? Are we polishing up Gerasimenko for a bigger role going forward?
They found a new position for him because he was playing more as a midfielder last night, even though he's a left back by trade. He scored with his left foot from, I'm talking like 15 yards beyond the box, so maybe 35, 40 yards out. Perfectly placed with some pace on it. The left footers are a little bit like a left-hander in baseball. Like a good left footer is very valuable. And he's a bigger kid too, who's got some pace. It's a worthwhile project, is Garrison Mankov, who's got 7 caps for Moldova, by the way.
Yeah, well, we've talked about like the Caps. One of the great things that they got going on about their program right now is just the improvement of some of these young players. Surrey's Jeevan Bodwell, Tate Johnson last year, who comes out of nowhere, middle of the first round of the MLS Super Draft to be a important guy at left back.
Funny you bring that up, Matt, because Garrison Mankov and Tate Johnson play the same position. And Sam Adekubi was on the lineup for last night's match for the first time this season, or since the injury, and did not draw in. He said it was a coin toss between him and Garrison Mankov. He made the right choice, obviously.
Do we have dates for these Montreal matches in the semi? I don't see that.
A date yet, no.
We do have a date for the Caps' return to BC Place. As you know, there were months between home games at BC Place. They still got 3 more MLS League games on the road starting in Chicago on Thursday, but they will be home on August 1st to face rivals LAFC, and they have already sold 30,000 tickets.
Should be a lot of fun.
Now,
big rival.
There's some context here. The great Korean star Sonny, of course, plays for LAFC. Once upon a time at Tottenham, of course, at the World Cup. So we know the Korean community turns out to see one of their great sporting heroes, national heroes. New BC Line special teams coordinator Dennis McKnight was on the practice field yesterday for the first time, and he brought the vibes. Now, if you know anything about football coaching staffs, the special teams coach, they tend to be a certain personality type, even within the personality type of football coaches. They tend to get after it. Volume, energy, intensity, enthusiasm tends to lead the staff. You know, guys run around the practice field screaming, "Blood on the saddle," or some other football coach motivational line. Tell you, Coach McKnight, he's no different. Here he is in conversation with the Vancouver media after his first practice.
Haven't had much time with these guys, but what have you seen from them, whether you're looking at film?
Well, you got to realize I played these guys 4 times in the past 2 years. And I'm not blowing smoke up their skirts, but this is a big, strong, fast, physical team. I love my guys in Hamilton, Tyler Ternowski, Ante. They're dogs, pit bulls. These guys are a different caliber.
Okay.
He would go on to say that every game, there's an invisible man out there on the field, and it's his unit's job, the special teams unit job, to capture the invisible man. And that invisible man is named Mr. Momentum.
Let's try that second half.
And after you catch Mr. Momentum, it's the offense and the defense job to retain Mr. Momentum. You've got that too, Mike?
There's an invisible guy at the start of every game, and he's out there in the field somewhere. It's the special team's job to capture him and bring him to our sideline. And that invisible guy is Mr. Momentum. That's our job. Now it's up to the O&D to keep him. But we cannot let the other guys get Mr. Momentum first, because it is hard to get back.
Dennis, I know you haven't had much.
What I love about it is, covering kickoffs and punts is inglorious work.
Yes.
You are putting yourself in some degree of peril for the benefit of the team. And so you need that special teams coach who's going to make you want to run through brick walls and eat glass. And Coach McKnight, love it. You saw Jay Janauer tweet earlier how much he enjoyed watching him coach on the field yesterday.
And that's a guy that you can't ever refer to by their name. He's just coach.
He's always going to be coach. Honestly, Blake, if there's one thing, I'm an old football reporter at heart. If there's one thing I absolutely miss about the gig, it's that steaming hot Wednesday in August when a coach is getting after it on the practice field. You know, it's unlike any other sport. You practice 3 to 4 times as much as you play in football. There's a lot of work to be done there. And they go 2.5 hours in the baking sun. And so you need some guys who are going to bring the vibe, who are going to bring the intensity.
And as you said,
they've got one in Coach
on special
McKnight.
teams, that always has to be the case because you said it's inglorious work, and there's the perils are double. The physical peril because you're hurtling yourself generally, and they've put in rules to prevent the hurtling towards each other. But it is still physically probably a more risky play than your standard second down.
Concussions, not to mention, the other injuries.
Yes.
I mean, you're running 40 yards top speed, right?
But secondly, there is the peril of being made to look bad because by the nature of most special teams, silly plays happened on special teams.
Grasping at air
yes.
because the returner has juked jived.
Yeah. So you got to be careful on two fronts.
Lions in Edmonton Friday to kick off Week 7 of the Canadian Football League. BC is 1-3. Elks are 4-1. Baseball's home run derby hit Netflix last night, and many believe the event has now jumped the shark. Jeff Passan, the ESPN baseball insider, made headlines earlier in the week when he predicted the home run derby was going to stink. And for some, it came off as sour grapes because, of course, ESPN used to be the carrier of the Major League Baseball All-Star Game and the Home Run Derby. Who can forget Chris Berman? Back. Passan was right. Here's Buster Olney, also of ESPN, but he's got the facts. Over the last 5 years, the Home Run Derby average with the clock was 275 home runs. Last night, over about the same amount of time, 131 home runs. They went to a limited swings model. Jordan Walker of the Cardinals won the event. Netflix actually threw up a graphic calling him the winner before the event had actually concluded. So they're working out some bugs on their live sports programming.
Jeez. Is there a way that you could do it where maybe guys are a little bit more excited because they know that they're not going to get exhausted by it? Is that you involve way more players, maybe the entirety of the All-Star rosters, and say that you get 10 pitches, and it's the longest. We've got the analytics now. We measure every single home run, and we're not measuring the number of home runs you hit. We're measuring
Distance.
the distance. Yeah. Everybody takes 10 cuts.
It's always been an event where if I happen to be home with nothing to do and I'm flipping channels, I will pause on it and basically, entertain me. See if you can hold me.
Yeah.
But yesterday I played golf. I didn't need to see it. If I miss it, I miss it. Look, we have also seen some prodigious performances in this event over the years. It may not be the one that comes first to mind for many, but do you remember Josh Hamilton of the Texas Rangers hitting absolute bombs? I believe it was in Yankee Stadium, if I'm not mistaken, as well, to all parts of the park. If you see a performance like that, the Home Run Derby is absolutely worthwhile. But if you don't see somebody go above and beyond the competitors...
Can I also
and
make
of course, if you don't have buy-in from the best home run hitters in the game, it also falls a little flat.
Can I make another suggestion? You can do whatever you want to your bat. Hollow that sucker out, pine tar it, do whatever you want.
It?
Yeah. Do whatever you want. It's about the spectacle. We want to see balls launch into the stratosphere.
It's the All-Star break for the minor leagues as well, so the Vancouver Canadians are off until Friday. Then they have a 9-game road trip through Tri-Cities and Hillsborough. They're back at the Nat 2 weeks from today on Tuesday, July 28th for the second dog day of summer where you can bring your pooch to the park. We'll have to get Faron and Luna out there. C's sold out 4 of 6 games last week, everybody. They have just 19 home games remaining on the schedule with loads of demand, especially for that new Canadian Club patio down the first base line, which is now open. A reminder, they have a limited number of places there where you can just go stand and watch the game from there. All you need is your game ticket. Get there early because there's a lot of people who want to check out the new digs. And, of course, get your tickets 604-872-5232 or CanadiansBaseball.com. Does another inexperienced Canucks coaching staff concern you? Our poll question from yesterday, yes or no. The people said no. 76% said no. Jack says, if all the current coaching staff stay until the team is a contender, the staff won't be inexperienced when it matters. Yeah, fair enough, Jack. as we discussed yesterday, it's rare for a head coach to see the pot of gold on the other side of the rebuild rainbow. It's even less common for the assistants who have the higher churn rate to see it, but fair enough. Gritty, better than the old boys club. Recycled same 30, 35 guys, benching rookies to play guys with David Kampf to get a few extra wins, which only hurts our draft lottery odds. Yep, completely understand that. SK says, having no succession planning for Malhotra could potentially delay or hinder player development if he failed and they have no viable replacement in the short term. Same also applies to Johnson and even the Sedins. The whole organization is full of rookies learning on the job. Yep, saw a lot of that. And then Cole says, in a vacuum, no. In the context of being in line with frugal spending trend that seems to be a top priority in decision-making, yes. In a business as valuable as an NHL franchise, an emerging frugality trend should not ideally be a defining characteristic of ownership.
We, of course, don't know that to be true. We're all connecting dots to arrive at that location.
Johnson has talked about budget. He has mentioned budget. He has, mentioned the dollar in, dollar out aspect of this on player acquisition.
I mean, it's assistant coaches, though. As I said, they're not a high-paid thing anyway. I think the key thing is that people are looking at this through the prism of winning and losing. Like, usually you think of coaches trying to win the game. What difference does a coach make in the win column? And in this case, there's so much emphasis on development that if you didn't think that guy was great in tactics in winning the game, but he was really good at developing skills and knowledge of the game to a player, I think you'd take that. And we don't know.
Yeah. 3 errors and omissions. We mentioned the audio problems earlier. Apologize for that. Jeff Patterson mentioned Phil Roenick's trade protection. It does go down from a full no-move clause to a 15-team no-trade clause starting in league year 28-29. And then I said the Blue Jays have 18 games remaining until the Major League Baseball trade deadline. It is 17 games, including their game on deadline day. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Appreciate you spending some time and connecting with the program. Please do subscribe to all our assorted channels, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Follow on social, X, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky. Live on many of those platforms, noon Pacific time. Tomorrow we will be going at 11 a.m. to get as much of the show out of the way for England, Argentina, because we think you just might watch England, Argentina. And, of course, please do support the community sponsors you hear us talking about. Keep it local.